Thank you so much for coming to the She Table, Women Who Cultivate Community. This has been a progress, at least, I'm not going to even say 6 months, I'm not going to say a year, I'm not going to say 2 years, 5 years. For a lot of us, it has been a decade to 4 decades to be given this space. I want to say thank you to the Office of Arts and Culture for giving us the opportunity to shine our truth to the public, to the Latin Cultural Center for giving us space for the Black Box, for our 6 panelists that you will observe today, as well as listen to and understand. The 2 performers who we have is Ofelia, and who's going to recite a beautiful 2 sets of poetry that is so empowering. And then we have a performer who's going to do a dance piece from a Black composer. She is from Tennessee State University. She'll be joining us today. My name is Micaela, the founder of Orizon. Again, this platform is so much more needed now than ever before, because there's so many conversations that are lost, broken, or misperceived, or twisted based on someone's intentions. And here today is giving everyone their flowers for the many sacrifices they have made to be where we're at today. So it's not a we, or an I, or a they. It's a collective and a unity of one love, as Marley has always said in everything that he did. I'm going to pass the mic to Obi because, again, like I said, it's not a gender, it's not a sex, it's not a nationality, it's not a race. It's about all of us together recognizing all the people who have changed things, to experiences, to circumstances, to be who we are today with pride, and not having to be who we were 30 years ago just to fit in, but knowing who you are as your identity and never devaluating yourself.
I just want to say thank you guys for being here. Thank you for taking the time. We're going to have a lot of fun. This is going to be beautiful. My name's Obi Siama. I want to say, I think my why for today is, what you might not know is that my grandmother gave me my name. My grandmother taught me how to speak. My grandmother taught me how to farm and grow things. Cut here, dig here, you know. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here. And then my mother taught me how to cook. So it's why I'm thriving, it's why I'm okay. Also, in my travels all over, I noticed that when women are thriving, usually the society and the community is doing a lot better. It's just obvious. When women are allowed to be themselves and shine the way that they do, it's better for everyone. So I'm a product of that, I'm aware of that, and we want to celebrate that. So thank you for this time, thank you for just being yourself. Breathe, relax, enjoy the space, enjoy this beautiful afternoon, and we're gonna learn a lot as well.
And from our great poets to our great activists, Frederick Douglass have said, without struggle, no change and no progress is happening. And I would like us to always remember that. Even though things may be difficult or challenging, don't walk the other way and things are going to change on its own time or on its own accord. It only changes when you show up, and you show up through action. So here we go. First up, Ofelia, our poets. You're ready. It's heat. Let's go. Por la gente.
And really humbled and honored to be here before you, especially knowing the mujeres, the women that are going to be speaking today to you. I have 2 pieces that I want to share. Before I do that, though, I just want to remind you that I am going to be sitting outside. I have a broadside table. If you feel anything today, if there's a spark that hits that heart, something that you want to take with you, I have pens, pencils, markers, paper. I have scrapbooking paper so that you can write those down, so that you can take those with you. Because more than ever, we need to feed our souls, and I think there's going to be like a buffet of that today for you. So the first piece that I'm going to share with you is about identity, and it's called Self-Deconstructed. Who am I? Where do I fit in? I feel like I'm going crazy. Tejana, Chicana, Mexicana, Latina, Rockera, blues-loving, norteño grooving, Jack-in-the-Box taco eating, and Moscow mule drinking. Too many damn boxes to be contained in. Too many. Tree-hugging, granola mama, lifelong Democrat questioning now whether she should flip to the supposed dark side of political ideologies where capitalism is the enemy and community care is the light. Reappropriator and anti-gentrifier, tongue-tied today, born on the wrong side of town, now the right place to be thanks to pleasant new neighborhood names and stickers, because there's always stickers when they rebrand the sabor and the color right out from under us. Zipping back and forth between who I should be, who I want to be, and who I am. Virgen of Guadalupe fanatic, spirit of the universe channeling, cape wearing, Pinteresting, martyr mommy by day, cock loving, tetas craving, talk dirty to me brujex by night. Am I a walking contradiction or the embodiment of duality? I am a woke sister, a bougie sister, a bold sister, a vendida sister. I am a shy girl, an angry girl, a hurt girl. I am a screaming woman, a hollering woman, a fucking exhausted woman. I am me. Es todo y con pinches zafos. And so if y'all don't know, con zafos is like an old Chicano term, and it's been called the barrio copyright. And so it's like this old Chicano, you see like a letter C/S, and they call it the copyright because once you attach that con zafos to it, it means it doesn't matter what anybody says, what anybody does, what anybody changes, it is what it is. And then the next piece that I want to share with you is actually different from the one I rehearsed. It's how to be an agent of change in your community in 5 steps. I actually wrote this the last time we were kind of in this situation with this administration. And I think it's pretty appropriate to share again. How to be an agent of change in your community in 5 easy steps. Side note, for outsiders coming in with the idea of saving or cleaning up our communities, we're gonna need you to pay extra attention during steps 1 and 2 so you can experience the world around you with a different set of filters. Since a common response to all of this work is usually, well, you don't really know what you need. Be aware that our response is, to that whole thing is, yeah, I guess we're invisible, and that when you don't acknowledge our contributions or our existence, or when you undermine the work that we're doing, it's gonna complicate things for the future. And I'm gonna need you to also be extra mindful during step 4, because that's specifically about the need for any work that's done in the community to be community-led and community-driven. And we're gonna need your support, but we don't need you to act on our behalf or to speak for us unless we ask you to. Your role here in all of this work is as a follower, not a leader or a spokesperson. So step 1, go outside. Step outside of yourself, of your ego, of your fears. Open the door to your home or your car or your office and let the world consume you for a few moments. Be still. Remind yourself that you're just a small part of everything that surrounds you at that particular moment. That you're nothing and you're everything all at once. Step 2 for working in the community. Look around and listen. Words aren't needed. Ideas are immaterial. If you have a college degree or if you don't, that's irrelevant. Just look hard and with intention. Look past the homes and the pets and the cars. Look past what you wish was there or what you wish was gone. Let your senses do their job. Let the smells and sounds that make their way to you create sparks and neurons and thumps in your heart. Let memories race through your spirit and just feel the world around you. Step 3, breathe. Take a deep breath. I said take a deep breath, deeper than you've ever done before. Let lungs fill and your chest cavity grow to the point of explosion, and let it go. Exhale. Let it go. I said let it go. Cry if you need to. Scream if it feels right. Stomp your feet as you do this. It doesn't matter what other people think. You're alive and filling your body with courage and strength right now. It's the fuel your spirit needs to move forward. Step 4, get your hands dirty. Move in the direction of truth and trust your instincts. You are the expert on your life. You know what needs to be done to create and strengthen community and help your neighbors. Don't second guess yourself. Spirit speaks when we become quiet. And if you followed steps 1 through 3, glimpses of what you can do will have come to you in flashes of memories, like that time when you were a child without a voice or a place, until a mural was painted on your elementary school by an artist that looked like you, that spoke like you, and that made you realize art is for people like you. A memory that now drives a quiet mother to speak up about the need for equitable access to art across neighborhood lines. That's the fuel that pushes this non-confrontational woman to use her words against those trying to erase her community in favor of a new and improved neighborhood. Honor those glimpses and give them life by speaking them out loud. Sentences like, you know what your neighborhood needs? We need, and fill in the blank. Say this enough, and wishful thinking becomes a call to action. A call others will answer. And even if they don't, just move in the direction of truth and trust your instincts. You are the expert on your life. You know what needs to be done to create and strengthen our community and to help your neighbors. Don't second guess yourself. Others will follow eventually. They always say that we're the answer to our ancestors' prayers. Believe that. We can change worlds and fill voids if we just do what needs to be done. So just do what needs to be done. Step 5, take a deep breath and repeat steps 3 and 4 as often as necessary. And you have community here to help you with all of these steps. So we have a lot of people that are hurting right now, friends, family, neighbors, and that's all we can do. Breathe deep, get our hands dirty, and go out there. And you're going to learn a lot from the women that are going to be here before you. So thank you.
Thank you, King Alvarado, for that graceful and inspiring performance. King, did you want to come back out and maybe talk about that song? Here we go. Well, let's give her a minute to just catch her breath, okay? After that wonderful performance.
So the piece is inspired by a Nashville artist who always paints about her heritage of being a woman of color and artist of color. And it inspired me 2 years ago to create more about the generational wealth of what it is to grow up in a Black matriarchal environment. And so the music is by Florence Price, who's one of the first Black female composers, internationally renowned. People play her music all over the world. And it's supposed to feel like playing in the fields outside with your cousin on a random Saturday, summer afternoon. And it's supposed to inspire so much joy because that kind of joy comes from within. And it's passed down by seeing the women before you be happy, live in their truth, honor the Lord, and take pride in who they are. And so that's what the piece is about. And that music by Florence Price really captured that and led the movement. I don't know if you could tell, but it was leading me throughout, and it was an honor to do the work.
And it was such an honor to watch you. Let's give King Alvarado another round of applause. And let's also give Ofelia the poet another round of applause. Yes. You are the expert of your life. That is something that we can repeat. It's a good affirmation, mantra for life. Welcome to the She Table! Women who cultivate the community. My name is Lauren Booker, and I'm your MC for today. So Micaela and Obi, they gave you a snippet of their why they're here today. And so I just wanted to give you my why and why I'm here today. I am from California originally, and I moved to Texas about 5 years ago. And cultivating friendships was at the top of my list. And I met Micaela through a dance class at our recreation center. And her glowing personality, her tenacity for life was something that I aspired to be like. And so that is a relationship that I wanted to cultivate. And once I got deeper in a relationship with her, I found out just how influential and monumental that was going to be in my life and my growth as a woman. So I say that to you, women out there, that you need to cultivate the relationships in your life. Figure out who's going to be the best for you and try to go after that. All right, so let's get into it. What does it mean to be a woman today in America? To appreciate who we are collectively, we must connect the dots from past generations to acknowledge the greatness within ourselves. So to do that, I'm going to give you a brief history to kind of tie that all in for everyone, okay? So the United States was founded in 1776. However, women weren't allowed in the education system until 1790. Even then, it was part-time, 6 months out of the year between April and October. They put us in summer school, ladies. We didn't get our first college graduate until 1840. Almost 50 years later, Miss Catherine Benson came in riding on that great white wave of independence and intelligence. Thank you, Catherine. Well, fast forward a few years later, and we have the Civil War. Harriet Tubman, the Moses of her people, you might be familiar with her. She led scouting missions and helped navigate the enslaved across Union lines towards freedom.
And at the turn of the century, women were quite fatigued. We were longing for a voice at the table. So we forged alliances, rallied together, and at Seneca Falls, New York, we birthed the women's suffrage movement. I know some of you might have birthed a few women's suffrage movements of your own at the kitchen table, dining room table, or simply just over the phone. Thankful for their perseverance and hard work, because in 1920, the 19th Amendment allowing women the right to vote was passed. That inspired many women, I would think, especially in aviation. You have Bessie Coleman. She was the first Black and Native American aviator. But that's no thanks to the United States, because they denied her licensing, the education for aviation. So instead of giving up on her dreams and her goals, she gave up on America and moved to France in 1921. And there she was able to accomplish her goals, conquer her dreams, and decided to come back to America to uplift her fellow women and purchase her own plane in 1923. An accomplishment so great that in 2022, American Airlines flew an all-women crew of pilots across the United States in her honor. And then I would like to take a moment, just a brief moment of silence for those who did recently pass in the American Airlines crash. On to medicine. Ollie Mason became the first Black registered nurse in Texas at Parkland Hospital in 1937. Madam C.J. Walker revolutionized the beauty and cosmetic industry, making her the first self-made female millionaire in the United States. An industry that generates $570 billion annually, according to an article in Forbes last year. Now, it has come to my attention that there is some controversy around Madam C.J. Walker, because there were other people and women who had a product like hers out on the market. And so there's some debate on whose product came first. But I'd like to bring you to present day. What do we call that today? We call it DIY, don't we? Where you take something that inspired you, you go home and you recreate it, or see if you can recreate it. And then if you do it well enough and authentic enough and something that resonates with you, you can then go out and preach it to the people. So I say, let's give Madam C.J. Walker her flowers. The 60s ushered in a new generation, and with that, new opportunities for women. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy signed in the Equal Pay Act. This was aimed at abolishing the disparity between wages, or based on wages on sex and gender. Now, that was his aim. But I ask you, and you don't have to say it out loud, but how many of you women here today know someone or yourselves know of a male counterpart who makes more money than you and has the same job title? So thank you, President Kennedy, but I think we still have a ways to go. The Civil Rights Act in 1964 gave equal opportunity education for all. And in 1965, Dolores Huerta, a renowned Latina activist, co-founded the United Farm Workers Association to improve the working conditions of a predominantly Spanish-speaking workforce. Now, Dolores is important to me because I come from Fresno, California, a major agricultural space here in the U.S. In fact, I remember growing up in school talking about how the United Farm Workers Association marched from Visalia, which is it's like 45 minutes outside of Fresno, all the way to Sacramento, the state's capital, in order to get this association recognized. That was a trip that took a few days, and it was along the 99. So that is a big, big, big celebration in California, where I come from. We also have the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974. This helped women gain access to credit, banking, and mortgages without a male cosigner. Because for some of you young individuals, before the 70s, women could not get a loan without a male counterpart. If they did, their interest rates were doubled, or they had to pay a double down payment. Not cool. So I ask you, what defines a woman? What defines a woman? Polarity of being a female. Raise your hand if you've ever been told you're not enough. Raise your hand if you've been told you're too much. Not true. Not true. Well, in the new millennium, when it comes to calling the shots, we as women are the straw that stirs the drink. Today we navigate managing home and work, ourselves, and our community. We have drive, work ethic, and tenacity, helping create lasting change. We understand with discomfort that knowledge isn't enough. We have to move. We have to move. We have to move. It is not what you were, but what you become. Orizon. Well, we've come a long way since little Catherine Benson graduated college to have an Ellen Ochoa, the first Latina to serve as NASA's Johnson Space Center director, launching the James Webb Telescope into space in 2021. If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won before you've begun. Marcus Garvey. Now that I gave you that brief overview of history, let me introduce you to the She Table. Women who cultivate the community. A diverse 6 panelists. We're going to start with Dominique, 21-year member of Alegre Ballet Folklorio and grant writer for the Irving Museum. Valkary, a well-recognized hip-hop organizer and performer for Drake and So You Think You Can Dance. Lady C4, also known as Destiny, international crump dancer, teacher, and speaker. Ericka De Leon, CEO at Feed Girl City, also USA Breaking for Gold Council member and co-founder of Hip Hop Flea Market. And last, but surely not least, our queen matriarch of Texas, Akwete, owner of the Pan-African Connection store and historian of African art. Thank you for being with us here today, ladies. Now I'll introduce you to our moderators, which you already have met. Obi, a well-renowned music artist, Afro dancer, teacher, 5th-year member with Orizon and City of Dallas, soon to be going to Angola. Safe travels, my brother. Micaela, international dancer, teacher, dance cultivator, speaker for street dance culture, and founder of Orizon. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the She Table. My name is Lauren, your MC. Let's begin. Let's go, Lauren.
So I'm so grateful to be here. It's like a dream. This was a dream a few months ago, and it's really happening. So thank you, guys. I want to start with a question, and this is for the entire panel. When a question is asked and you feel led, please get up and come to the podium and speak. The reason that we're doing that for you, audience, to know is that something happens when you stand up and you speak your truth. So we wanted to make sure they had a chance to do that. You're going to get the message sitting down. It don't really matter whether they're standing or sitting. But for today, we're going to sit in that. My first question for this panel, what keeps you grounded? And how has that changed you over time?
Let's go, Ericka.
First and foremost, thank you so much. I feel super blessed to be here and amongst these amazing women. I feel like we are the backbone, and being together is definitely what makes our back hurt, but it also makes us feel good at the same time. But what keeps me grounded is a reminder every day of all the things that I kind of went through as a young child, and being a person that has worked with a lot of kids in the juvenile justice system and doing a lot of nonprofit work. Still living in the barrio, still being around my peers, being around my family, being around my brothers and my nephews and nieces. There's still these tendencies of and value love within ourselves that we don't find it till we get to a certain place. And for me, I was lucky and brave enough to get to that space. So every day I look in the mirror, I am grounded by that, by my family, by my peers, by everything that surrounds me and my traumas. It's a work in progress every single day to be able to be in a good place within yourselves. And that's what helps bring in the good work that we continue to do, and why I foster and bring the honorable notions of the work that's going to come before me. And it's a hard work. It's work that has to be done every single day. I feel like it's a job that will never be done, but for whatever reason, God's purpose and alignment has brought me here today, and that's what truly, truly keeps me aligned and grounded of all the things that I want to accomplish as a woman.
I would say what keeps me grounded is the love of my family, the love of my community, the knowledge that the ancestors have passed on to us. Whenever I've had moments in my life when I wanted to give up, I was like, it's that saying where it says, walk into a room as if the ancestors are opening the door for you. That's how I feel, that we carry the knowledge and the spirit and the beauty of our ancestors, that we exist, that because of the love. They loved us before we were even born, before they loved us generations back. And I think about all the knowledge that my abuelas, my abuelos, all the people that loved me and nurtured me, teachers, mentors, that's what keeps me grounded. And I always go back to that. I feel like I'm always moving into the future, but looking into the past, you know, and keeping it into my present and finding that common thread. I always carry something from the ancestors with me, whether I'm wearing it or it's I'm a big fan of letters, of love letters. And my grandmother, Lorena, may she rest in peace, Lorena Martinez Rice, presente, she would write me letters all the time. It's something that I do. I love to write letters. And this, an excerpt from a letter. She says, P.S. Mija, what I tell you is because I love you very much and always look ahead. So that's what keeps me grounded. The love of mi gente, the love of my ancestors, and how I have these, you know, I have pictures. Dia de los Muertos comes once a year, right? For me, it's Dia de los Muertos every day. Because I have an altar at my home. It sits it's like I change it and I move it and I add things. And I talk to them before I leave. I'm like, I'm not gonna fail you, or like, oh, I had a rough day. You know, I have these conversations with mi ancestros. So I was like, you know, they didn't cross deserts and oceans and endured hardships and traumas for me to just give up. So anyway, that's what keeps me grounded, is the love of family, the love of ancestors, the love of community.
She said a lot of what keeps me grounded. The promise to our ancestors, right? As she said, our ancestors have sacrificed so much. Our grandmothers, our great grandmothers and grandfathers. And I know that they went through such pain and trauma that it was a million times than we could ever imagine, right? No book, no movie, nothing can testify to the amount of trauma that our people have gone through for us. But it also is that promise to not only work for self, but to work to lift our people. You know, in this system, there's a lot of exploitation, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of oppression, and our institution has always been in the heart of the community, where sometimes I see things, you know, that saddens me, it pains me to see a lot of the addictions and just a lot of the monkeys that we carry on our backs, right? It pains me. And there are even thoughts in your head saying, well, people say you need to move out of this community, but I can't, because those are the people that we cannot forget about, that we must always try to change these conditions, fight against this system that creates these conditions of oppression and just injustice among our people. Many of us have people who are locked up in prison, and relatives, and a lot of them don't need to be there. So it's just to fight against an unjust system is just seeing my community in the state that it's in and wanting to lift it up. So that keeps me grounded.
What keeps me grounded is music. Reason why I say music, because it's a frequency, and I believe frequencies just give you a vibration of existing and what it feels like to exist by the artist's word and how they express what they at that moment at the time. And sometimes we be in the same moments, but just in different time zones. So I feel like music just makes our heartbeat, make us move every time we feel it, every time we hear it. You know, we all make music around the world if you think about it, because we all move in a certain pace that others don't see. But if we take the time to listen and pay attention, you can feel what they're feeling. So that's what keeps me going.
How y'all doing? That's good. What keeps me grounded is not wanting to disappoint that little girl that I once was. You know, as we grow, you have all these ambitions and things that you want to do, and then you get caught up in life. But then if you just really sit back and you think I'm trying to please everybody else. Did I still please that kid at heart? Because it's still there. Everybody's still trying to accomplish something of some type of goal when they in their youth, and it just grows with us. That's why we have resentment, because you're not fulfilling that dream of whatever it is that you want to do truly in your heart. And to really do that is to sit with yourself. If you sit with yourself in silence, pure silence, you'll be able to listen and really hear. You'll see what's going on around us, because like she said, we're all moving at a rhythm and a pace, but sometimes we're not present. You know, there's a difference between moving and being present. And being present, being grounded, and not wanting to disappoint that little girl that had that. That's what keeps me going. So.
Thank you for those responses. It's making me think about the poem we heard earlier, where there's stillness. What do you hear when you still? So one question I have for the whole panel. Identity is something that comes up a lot in this country, in our own story. It's shit, my life, every life. When did you fully embrace all of you? Where were you? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? What were you hearing? And I'm not saying this in a way that I can understand this is a process and it's not happening all at once. But are there some moments where you can look back and say, wow, I really understood myself in this moment? Can you help us understand what that was like for you and share a little bit about that?
Okay, so I think it's always been, like how you said, like something that you grow with, and it's always constantly changing. But being half Mexican, growing up, you're surrounded, especially in Dallas, by the Latino community, and a lot of my peers would be like, oh, well, you're not Mexican enough because you're only half. But it's one of those things where it's like, growing up, I grew up with my great-grandma and spoke Spanish with her. I grew up eating her food, her cooking, hearing her stories, and living in that culture. And I dance ballet folklorico. And that, to me, is like the tangible way of me connecting with my own heritage. So I remember growing up, like, I think it was like college, I had a friend who was like, damn, you're Mexican, like, you're doing that. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. Like, period. Like, no one can take that away from me. And I think it was just kind of like a reassurance, just like hearing from like a new friend who hadn't been like knowing me before, that I really was like, you know what, no, this is who I am. I've always felt comfortable identifying this way. Why should I let anybody else define that for me?
Yeah. Right on, Dominique. Yes.
Identidad. So complex, right? Well, you know, I grew up in this little bitty town in southwest Texas, Crystal City. It's near the Eagle Pass, Piedras Negras, Coahuila border, near Uvalde. A lot of small towns in that area. That's where I'm from. I've been in Dallas almost 30 years, so I've been here longer than I've been anywhere. But I carry those roots with me always, right? It's at the foundation of who I am and how I treat people and how I see the world, and constantly evolving. I think the identity, I really realized, like once I left my little pueblito, you know, I was, you know, it was a very rural community, very, a lot of things had happened, the 1969 walkout and the Japanese internment camp. It was a small town, but a lot of things had happened, you know, so I always grew up with all these, I was like, I didn't really understand what it meant at that time. Then I went off to college, and I remember I didn't really realize, because everybody looked like me, right? I grew up, everybody looked like me, and whoever didn't look like me spoke the same way like me. We would code switch, you know, Spanglish, English and Spanish, and it didn't matter if you were African-American or Anglo, like, you know, it was a comunidad. I mean, we were the Mexicanos, Mexican-Americans were the dominant culture. So when I went off to the University of Texas at Austin back in the 90s, that's when I really was treated differently. That's when I was told, oh, how did you learn English so well? Or you don't have much of an accent, how's that? I was like, well, that's what happens when you're here like your whole life, you know? So I mean, I'm not saying everybody was like that, but that's when I got those experiences, and I was like, wow, I'm Mexican, huh? Cool. And then I became like, because I took it for granted, because he was so around me, you know. We would cross El Puente to Eagle Pass to go de compras and eat and go to the doctor and, or go to Nuevo Laredo. So it was always like part of our, I didn't think anything of it. So discovering that, wow, that's my culture, and I really need to appreciate it. And not only that, I don't have to be, I grew up very Católica, very obedient, and girls don't always speak up. So I started to challenge all those ideas. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to be your authentic self. I've fought some battles in college where some students would confuse me and the other 4 Latinas in the broadcast sequence and call us, yeah, none of us looked alike, but to some people we looked alike. So these were really harsh realities I faced as a young person, but it only caused me to really appreciate and stay grounded in who I was and say, hey, this is important work, and there's other people that are watching. There's other Latinas, there's other non-Latinas, and it's important that we stay grounded and move forward. So anyway, I'm still evolving in the identidad, but I say moving from my pueblito into a bigger city like Austin really shifted and kind of solidified, like, hey, I'm Latina, I'm proud, I'm Mexicana, and I'm not gonna change to conform to whatever you think I am.
Okay, so for me, it was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. This was after I was in college, right? So I went through all of high school, all of college, and I didn't know who Malcolm X was. And I met my late husband, who introduced me to many things, because I didn't, even identify as, I thought I was Farrah Fawcett or something, Young people don't know who Farrah Fawcett was, but I was so assimilated, I guess, into the dominant culture, and I just wanted to get a job and, get a husband and have a happy little family with a white fit. So I was very confused, to say. But for me, it was meeting someone like Bandeli Tahimba, who helped me not only move beyond our history of slavery, but back to Africa, right? To identify that my history did not start in slavery, it started in Africa. So for me, it was meeting someone who could give me certain tools to add up who I am, right? Because you can't force somebody when they've been fed so much propaganda all of their lives about identity. You can't force them to look at themselves as African, or to connect them back to a land base. For me, identity connects you back to a land base. And for us as African people, Africa is that only land base. So it took me some time to get there. I got rid of the Farrah Fawcett perm, got braids, and I've never gone back. So I'm just saying, sometimes just education is very important, but just giving people tools is what I do now. I don't force them. I say, well, read this autobiography of Malcolm X. That's one thing that helped me to go on to read 3,000 other books after that, because Malcolm went through the whole identity and the whole gamut of things that comes with living in America. So, but the autobiography of Malcolm X.
I was a little nervous to answer this question because I'm 46 years old, and I always kind of stuck to my guns as being a product of my environment. My grandparent, I'm third generation Mexican American. I also am a Pueblo tribe, so I am Native American as well. But there's so many other entities in my family, Venezuelan, Puerto Rican, And I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood. So my father was all Motown, my mom was all Tejano. So for a long time, what I identified was street culture. That's who I was. I was a gangster from the hood and did hood things and looked for family in that because unfortunately my home life was a despair of so many different things going on there. So, being protected by people that were not related to me, but doing bad things at the same time was just, I was such an angry child. So it was very difficult for me to get to the space that I am now to understand, but I do recall certain things growing up and whatnot that always kind of led me understanding that I am obviously Mexicana. But I grew up wearing braids and box braids, and I am a break dancer, grew up in hip hop culture. And I understand, to me, for Latinos to be a part of the essence of the culture and the beginning stages of that in the 1973, I'm also a part of the Mighty Zulu Queens, and that is a global, international African descent of a crew. But there's all sorts of nationalities in that crew as well. So to this day, I am engulfed in what you see a Chicana. That's who I represent as myself as a Chicana. That's who I identify finally. I kind of figured out, all right, girl, who are you, man? You got to figure it out, and I'm a Chicana. I didn't grow up in Mexico. Again, I'm third generation. My father did not, my grandparents did not, but their grandparents did, or their parents did. And so, but I remember going to Mexico growing up plenty of times. Even my godparents are from Mexico. I don't know them, but they are, I was baptized. Just understanding I am all these things, it doesn't take away of pivoting into the steps that I need to take forward into all these things that I encompass as who I am. So I try to take that as a strive to understand so many different people that I connect to in so many deep ways. And so that's how I kind of identify with all that I am, with everyone that I'm surrounded by. I've always thought that I was this deep connector to people for whatever reason, and I think it comes along with everything that I went through to be here today.
Man, you guys got my mind going. Okay. I want to talk about belonging because it ties to this identity piece. One thing I've noticed and what I'm hearing you guys say is, yes, you understand yourself better now, but you're also still evolving. It doesn't stop. So these identities that you have, you can hold that, yes, this is where I'm from, this is my family, this is my culture, but I'm also still becoming, always. The reason that means something to me is because belonging has been such a big issue in my life. It has been the drama of my life. I was born here, but I'm the only Nigerian in my family in the US. My first language is Igbo. I'm living in Gainesville, Texas, and all my family's in Nigeria. So when I got to school, it was, you're not black. And then when I'm in Nigeria, it's, you're not Nigerian, you're American. Okay. Then I'm at church. My spirituality, my connection with God, very important, lifeline. But I'm queer. So do I belong here? Oh man. And then I think also just about, at one point in my life, it was like, I don't think I belong anywhere. And now I'm looking back like, wow, I didn't have to be that lonely because I'm enough. There's music, there's life, there's the joy in my heart. So these are why what you're saying, it means so much to me, and it's also opening my eyes. I wanted to ask you if you can talk about when you've had any blind spots in your life. Who has been a mirror to you? Who has helped you see yourself better? Can you talk about belonging to yourself and to the communities that you're a part of? Because you guys are the people you are the lights where you are. People are gathering around you. You guys are so humble. I'm forgetting who you are for a second. People gather around you. How are you connecting? How are you relating to the people around you? How do you belong to yourself and to others? I hope that makes sense.
I love what you said, Obi. Like, that resonated with me a lot. Because, as you, like you said, we're a part of the community. I've been a part of the Dallas dance community for, a long time. I've seen it grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and becoming and belonging. And it's funny, I go back and I look at old clips of myself and I go, who was that girl? Goodness gracious. Like, the things that I do then, I wouldn't dare do now. Like, you know? But at the same time, I also appreciated it because I was like, I wouldn't be this person if I didn't go through that. Life is cycles. We're going to always go through changes, right? For me personally, it started off with my health. You know, I started to, like I said, being present and really looking inside yourself and certain goals that you want to do. Are you taking the initiative action to do that? So was I? And you have to listen to your body. It starts with listening, and we can be hard-headed to ourselves. I know I can be, you know. But every time I go against myself, it always comes back around like, dang, I knew it. Everybody had a moment like that. I know you have, you know, because yourself is never going to let you down. So I had to start listening to myself, listening to my body. My body naturally started like to digest anything that wasn't got made from God, pretty much. You know, like. You know, I was drinking, you know, I'm from Louisiana. I was born here in Dallas, but I'm also from Shreveport, Louisiana. So Louisiana, shout out to Louisiana, you know what I mean? I'm a Southern girl. Although I will say, I went to the Dominican Republic and everyone thought I was Dominican. I was like, what? So I don't relate to y'all because I only grew up, you know, because in the South. But that feeling is interesting. You know, like, you Dominican? I was like, no, Texas. You know, I grew up in North Dallas. What's up? Shreveport. You know, she'll be noticed. What's up? You know? So, yeah. So I grew up in the typical, you know, we cooked. You know, my grandma had 11 kids. You know what I mean? And my mom's the second to last. So our family was big. You know, it was big. We had block parties. And in Louisiana, you know how Louisiana, we get down. Like, it was always a party, always dancing. And me as a child, you know, oh, I'll give you some money. I'm right here. You know, I'm right here. You know, whatever. I want to every time, you know? And then we would go, me and my cousin go around the block. You know, candy back then was like, you had $1, you had a lot. You know, you can get, I used to walk out with them little brown bags. I'm showing my age, I'm getting old, you know what I mean? Them little brown bags, man, it was, man, good time. You know, but as I got older, I was drinking a lot of sodas and a cyst developed in my breast. And it was an emergency. I was like 12, 13 years old, and the doctor told my mother she can't have anything natural. She can't have anything natural caffeine, or it might develop into cancer. And I was like, what? So I had to take away sodas naturally. You know, I started throwing up all the dairy. So I had to, as I got older, I realized I was like, man, my body's talking to me. Let me listen. So I went down a rabbit hole of health. You know, understanding what they're putting in our foods and how it's affecting the way I think. Like, all of those things matter. All of those things matter. The smallest things you don't think that matters, it does. Especially what we put inside, if we want it to be represented in a certain way. That's where it started for me. I was like, if I want to be the best at this, how can I do this? Okay, you know. And then it started with spirituality. You know, okay, Lord. Because I grew up in Baptist, non-denominational, all of them. My mom was trying to figure it out. But I was on the journey with her. I was like, we're going to figure that together, you know? You know, and then, you know, and as a child, my mind wandered. You know, I was was going places. But as I got older, I started to realize it's about that relationship. And that's about like that relationship with yourself. And when you have that with yourself, you're having it with him because we are one. There's no separation. He's with us every single time. And so once I had that, I was like, okay, Lord, you're talking, okay, I understand it. I get it now. And just those little levels started to change. As I changed the way I ate, I started to change the way I started moving my body. I'm a dancer. Dancers are athletes. Okay, let me just put that out there. Dancers are athletes. That's a fact. Because you're moving. Now, everybody is moving, though, because everything is dance. That's what I said. Dance is so powerful. It's so powerful, and it was a gift given to me. Even I didn't even know why I liked it, why I loved it, but I did because it saved me. It saved me. And then as I got older, growing up, I remember being in the apartments, and this old man said to me, he said, you know, you should come over here. And I'm like, why? And he's like, come here, I want to show you something. And I go in there, and he shows me a movie called Breaking. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he tells me, you're gonna do this. You're gonna do this. And I was like, because, when we moved back to Texas, I was dancing all the time. It's Jesus, but they wasn't. I'm over here getting down. And so he said that you're going to do this one day. And then as I got older and after I graduated high school, and I said, I'm going to dance for real. I'm going to do this. And so I just invest myself in it. I gave myself to it. I said, you know what? I'm young. Let me do it right now. Why wait? Why wait? What are we waiting for? Yeah. What are we waiting for?
Right.
Like, and people tell you today, you still dancing? You still not working out? What you doing? You still eating that? You still eating like that? Like, what? No. Yes, I'm still moving. Why would I stop? I gotta move as much as I can right now until the Lord says, all right, let's do something else, I know I'm gonna move, and when I dived into it, it hit me back to that when he said, you're gonna do this. And I looked up, I was doing it. I was doing battles, now I'm winning in competitions. Now I'm flying the world. Now I'm getting paid off of what I love to do. What? Like that was like, wow. That's why I said, going back to what I said earlier, going back to those levels of that child, because that's where it starts. That's where it starts. That's where you're shaped and molded as a person. Those elementary years, so vital. That's where your heart truly lies at. And once I dived myself into that and I started to really dive into community, I was like, man, we need each other to be able to do this. I said, you know what? Anybody else gonna do it? I'm gonna do it because of the love. That love is so powerful. Love can take you anywhere. It's all about love. My love for it is just enough. And that's when I realized I was enough. It was given to me even out of my control. I really accepted myself and said, man, why do I love this stuff so much? But it's unspoken. It's from the heavens, and I just flow and I follow. And I listen. I don't get in the way. I get out of the way and I say, Lord, you got my steps because I know I need you. I can't do it alone. Once I had that understanding and I pieced it all together, because it's all transitions in your life, and I sit back and I realized I'm doing it and I love myself. I'm proud of myself. I'm doing exactly what I said I was going to do and more, because it changed my life, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't change it for the world because dancing is healing. Mm-hmm. Dancing is healing. It changes the world. When we had COVID, what saved everybody? Dancing. It wasn't just TikTok. It was the dancing on TikTok. Let's get it right. But it was movement. Movement changes the world. If we just get up and move, so many things will happen. So just keep moving.
So yes, I understand his side or her side. So it's being a queer, going to a scenery, just being different. In this generation, you have to look a certain way. You have to look a certain way. You have to have certain things in order to be accepted. And I think that sucks because you start to question.
We lost you on the mic. Hold on.
Mic go.
Yeah.
Oh, my bye. Thank you. Tyrone? Okay. Make sure. But yeah, I just feel like you have to be a certain way to be accepted in certain places, and it does suck because you start questioning yourself. Do you belong? Because you don't walk this way, you don't look this way, you don't like this type of music, and I feel like each person we meet is an experience. So, in order for us to grow, we have to experience each other and understand what does belong. So that helped me growing up in the dance scene, and when I met Valkary when I was little, growing up in the dance scene as well. I seen how in her group and everybody she was behind was being themselves. So I was like, let me keep doing this, and eventually, it would just show as it is. It won't be. I try to belong somewhere else rather than where I'm at. So yeah, that's when I realized that.
How little? What was your age? Just because I know Valkary for 15 years, so that's what I'm curious about. Everybody's little is different.
Yeah, I got you. I was about 14.
Yeah, I was already doing it.
Yeah, I was 14 when
I was like 20, maybe my 20s, like early 20s.
Yeah, I was little. I'm still short, but I've been knowing her for a long time, and she don't know it, but I have looked up to her in the dance scene, and I always said, okay, she's a woman, she's doing it, she's traveling.
I would want to do that someday, you know. And the fact that I'm doing it, that's how I know I belong to dance, or I belong to be around music, or people that love music, people that love to dance. And, you know, you just gotta keep learning yourself, because at the end of the day, you might feel happy tomorrow. I mean, today, you might feel sad tomorrow. So we just have to keep evolving, you know. Like, don't try to belong anyways, you know. Don't try to belong, honestly. Try not to belong.
Say it again.
This is a question. I think in that spirit of, you don't have to put yourself in a box. What do people rarely ask you that they should? What are people not asking you about that is on your mind?
I think it was so funny because I was talking to my fiance on the way here. I drove from Houston to be here today, and to me it was man. Even last night when I kind of read over the questions, I was like, oh, I ain't ready for this question. I can't do that. I don't know. I don't even know how to identify it right there in that moment. But I think there was a slight clear answer. What I felt to me was sometimes when you're this leader or this person that people are looking to just be everything and anything, and I take that with a strive in my heart and everything, but I want to feel human sometimes too, and I want them to know I am human and I ain't Shira, and I'm not the counselor, the judge, and the officer, and none of that stuff sometimes. So there's been like just barely a couple years ago where I started putting my hand out and just being like, yo, can you check in with me just to make sure my cup is not overfilled before you say, baby girl, can I please get, and how do you do this? Which I don't have a problem doing. I love that. I am a resource. I am that tree with the branches, and you pick which leaf you need, and I got you all day, every day. But it did become to be slightly overwhelming if I didn't understand what energy was. I didn't understand what boundaries were. I didn't, I grew up with a mama that never said no to nobody in the family. She did everything and anything for the rest, my whole family, my father too. They took their shit off their back for everybody. But I see them now like they're so tired. And I don't want to be that tired at that age. And so I think, just being able to remember that we're all human, we're all going through something, and understanding what grace is and giving each other that. And I too would like that back. So yes, I think that's something that as you start to grow within yourselves and all that you find yourself to do, that God has put in your purpose, because we all have it, you all have it. Know to understand what boundaries are, know to understand what grace is, and know to just respect yourself and love yourself first, because you can't completely give it to everybody else until you are doing it for yourself. So continue watering yourselves first.
You are all leaders just by being, and that's a part of your life's destiny. Can you help us understand this human side of you too? What does it cost you to be who you are? What's the cost of being a boss?
It's sometimes, well, you don't get all the pats on the backs that a lot of people get, right, when you're doing a certain level of work. Sometimes for me, I work, I invite people into our space that want to do a certain level of organizing, certain level of work, right? Sometimes it's against, always against capitalism. It's always for a certain cause or a certain forward movement of people in our community. So a lot of people don't like that, right? So you don't always get the pats on the backs, which is cool. Certain level of work you're gonna do, you may not get the funding. You're gonna just kind of be, just kind of isolated in certain areas. So it gets, sometimes you get say, well, you think you deserve, a certain level of attention, but you won't get it, and it's okay. You get to the point where you realize sometimes being on a certain side of history will be a little lonely, and you may get criticized, and so sometimes you get in your feelings, but it has to only be temporary. You have to come out of it. So being, as someone said earlier, being someone that people are always coming to and looking for help and assistance, it does sometimes wear you down, but it's part and parcel of what we do. And but you do have to take that time for yourself. But in a certain level of work that we are doing, you may get a little lonely at times. So, but it's all good. I mean, for me, I accept it, and you just continue to do the work because it's a part of your destiny. It's a part of the promise that you kept to your ancestors.
So the question, what does it cost you to be an anchor in the community? I never really saw myself as that, but it just kind of like, I think collectively, probably a lot of us have gone through this where, I never meant to be a leader. I don't even know if I truly am. It's just somebody told me like, hey, you know how to do this, and you know how to, kind of know how to bring people together. So why don't you do it? I was like, okay, I'm a journalist. I'm a storyteller, and a poet, and no. I'm just a storyteller. That's all I ever really wanted to be since I was a little kid. But thank you, Micaela. So I used to serve on a couple of city boards. I was the vice president of the Park and Recreation Board and the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, and there were times that I was the only Latina in the room, the only Spanish speaker in the room. So I saw things. We all have blind spots, so representation matters. If you can't serve on a city board, I know these spaces were not created for us, let me tell you, because they have the meetings during the day, or they have it at night when you have a familia, when you've got obligations, when you need to rest, there's so many things. These spaces were not made for us, for women, for caregivers. We're naturally caregivers and nurturers. I would take my kiddo, as I have my kiddo here today, I would take him to city meetings. He would call City Hall the theater space. He goes, we're going to the theater space again? I said, yes, son. So I would take books and stuff for him. So anyway, it's cost me, I guess, sometimes, being a person that carries my heart in my sleeve, con el corazón en la mano, right, with my heart in my hand, I took everything so seriously. Took like, wow, what does this mean? If we make this decision, it's gonna have this effect in the community. What does it mean to this community? So I would talk to a lot of people before even, people, what do y'all think? Because it wasn't about me. I was just one voice, but I took it very seriously. Sometimes I felt like, okay, I'm on this board, I'm on the Park and Rec board, but I'm the only Latina, and I feel like I represent all Latinos in the city of Dallas. There's 400 parks in the city, and maybe that's how I felt. So I was like, it's a big decision. This is park land. This is stolen land. This is 400 parks. So I took it very, very seriously. So anyway, I never saw myself as a leader, but I found myself in leadership positions, and I still do. And I will never turn anybody away that say, hey, what do you think? Or, and I might not be able to do it. I might not have the capacity. So I'll say, hey, I don't know how to do this, but let me connect you to this person. I keep hearing the word connector, community connector, and I feel like that's my role right now. So anyway, my message after saying all of that is I really feel that people need to not be afraid to take their place at the table, pull up a seat. You belong there. Representation matters. You don't have to serve on the city board, but if you can, please do. And if you want to know how to do it, or what are the channels? Because I didn't even know what the channels were. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Do you apply? Do you contact your council member? What is it? I'll be happy to share that knowledge, that institutional knowledge that I now have that I didn't have before. So anyway, that's my little 2 cents I wanted to share.
So this next question will be, like I told you all before, if I have any quiet, we have those certain direct questions that go to one or two people that like to stay silent. So, Dominique? Yes, ma'am. And if those who don't know Dominique, for this panelist discussion, I'm gonna say anal. That's the correct word I can think of right now. Because to be on this platform with strong women, you have to be 30 and plus, if not 40 and plus. Because it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of resiliency, a lot of perseverance, a lot of fight behind closed door, and then show up in front of the door looking your best. But because I reached out to a few people who Dominique asking anyone that they know of, which a lot of people are not doing anymore because of social media, relating information correctly, I reach out to other directors, like how it used to be done for research. You talk to those who know those before you do work with those. So reaching out to Dominique, this one, she is our youngest panelist. She's 27, but it's her dedication and is talking to other directors from cultural centers, asking, do you have any who are in their 20s that have their, sorry for the young ones, their shit together and are willing to listen, to understand, and to grow. Don't try to argue with me or battle that your right is more than my right, because it's not about that. It's about being next to those who have paved and broken to be where they're at right now and still rise up. So for Dominique, seeing the women of today by viewing your mom, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, what does it mean to be a woman of today?
It's funny you asked that question because that was the one that was on my mind since the call. And also for the record, I'm 28. Let me not be lying up here, right? So I think listening to everybody, I want to go back to answering a little bit of the belonging question. I think for me, when I feel the most comfortable and able to be my authentic self in front of people is listening to other people and their stories and seeing if they put their true selves forward. And so I think a lot of right now kind of staying quiet was taking in all of y'all right now. I know Priscilla from high school, I worked with Academia Theater Company, and listening to you, I'm just like, oh my god, yeah, I relate with that so much. And yeah, you guys are badasses. So I think being a woman today is knowing that it's not a competition. You're here to engage with these other women who are in your space and learn from them so that you can be your best self. I think for me, yeah, growing up with my great-grandmother, she was the strongest of our matriarchy, and she had this way of making you feel special even if you weren't necessarily her favorite, but my sibling and I were her favorites, so no one ever complained for that. But, it's about how I guess if people look up to you, it's how you make them feel special and they're here, that they have somebody to look at and to lean on. I think it's being so many different things because society asks so much of you, but just constantly wanting to work for what you believe in and practicing what you preach. I always tell people, you need to find something you love and just go with it. It doesn't matter. It's really hard. For me, I took longer to graduate from college. My great-grandmother died, and that was really hard. Watching her decline was the most difficult thing I've had to experience in my life thus far. But I always said that my biggest drive is spite, and somebody had said, oh yeah, when you stop going to school, you don't go back. Watch me finish my degree. So I did that.
can't do it, and you're like, oh, let me show you.
Yeah, let me show you. Yeah. So I think it's knowing what drives you, why you're doing it. For me, I also work with like kids in my dance group. I help assist with teaching those classes, and I also work with Girl Scouts. So I work with kids from like 3 to high school now, and it's like being yourself in a way that all of these kids are gonna look up to you, and hopefully one day they say like, oh my gosh, she's so cool, I want to be like that one day. But also, I love hearing all of their stories and knowing that them watching me is what's helping shape their future, and that they're able to do whatever they want to.
Okay, this next one is kind of heavy for me. So from segregation, I was raised from Martin Luther King School, and then as Obi also experienced going to Chicago with me, where it organically came out through one of my close friends, Granita, where she talked about that segregation, how it was for us. So all we knew was the beautiful Black community, and then when they split us up, I was like, once I was bused to another location, I'm like, well, what is this? And she even talked about that, of how that was a shock for us because of where our norm was. And the school that I went to would do studies on us. If you came from this environment, this zone, we need you to take this test, answer these questions. And at that time, in the late 70s and early 80s, if you answered questions of broken home, or if you're whatever may be adopted, or if you live in this neighborhood, then statistically, they would tell you what your outcome is going to be. So that's your middle school. So my outcome was, you'll be in jail or dead. And I was like, what the hell? But for us, the drugs, the gangs, all that was normal. But to be told from someone who didn't even belong or understand where you're from to determine your future, I was like, nah, I battle every night. I'm on the mattress, flipping, doing tricks against the boys, and these people are gonna tell me that I'm gonna die by a certain age? In my mind, I didn't even know if I would live by the time I got to 16 or 19, so every day was an appreciation. But I fought differently to prove them wrong. And so through proving them wrong, it brought me to different places. So to look back at your 9-year-old self to say, would you believe that you're here today? And what would you say to your 9-year-old self? Because that is a very difficult question, because everyone's youth is different. Everyone's home life is different. I can say I'm very blessed to have a man from Mexico City adopt me at 3 months old. But from 3 months to 14, I was with him. And because of the circumstances in America, I was sent to Mexico City. Then after that, Chicago, then Oklahoma City, and then different cities. So I've lived with Jamaican family, Cuban family, Congo family. So every year and a half or 2 years was a different family. Puerto Rican family, the lavados in the morning, the blessings, or you went to someone who would bless you to take away the evil spirits. So every culture, I learned something different. And even sharing experiences, he would tell me, oh yeah, we do the same thing in Nigeria, it's the same thing. And I was like, this feels good. But explaining your story, people are like, what? How's that even possible? It is. Every kid is raised differently. You could be in the same household and every brother and sister will have a different experience. And to know that that's okay, and just to talk about it and to listen, that's what brings us to a different level of living and breathing to share these conversations. So I ask our panelists today, what would your 9-year-old self say and think to who you are today?
There's a different color too now? Okay. But I think she'd also be really proud of me just always constantly like finding new things that are really interesting and growing and learning from the people around me. I always say that I'm not done growing up yet. So after I'm done doing the little jobs I have now, I'm gonna find something else I love and probably seek that. So I know one day I'm gonna like be a mortician. That is on the plan here. But I think she'd think like, okay, cool. So we're not allowed to find something that we love and just constantly like change because that's who we are.
Yeah, see, I touched on this earlier. See? You see? You see? You see? Full circle? Full circle? I spoke on it because, like I said, I went back to that 9-year-old self. You gotta be able to go back there. Are you proud? And I will honestly say my 9-year-old self would definitely be proud. First of all, I would be shocked that I have locks, because man, I grew up on the Just For Me commercials. My mom saw that commercial and said, that's it. Like, man, got so many chemical burns. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I got nightmares, man. I really do. I'll be having to touch my ears sometimes. No, but because like you grow and you change, and the things that you think you didn't like, you like now. Like, your taste buds change, your look changes. Like, I realized that, like I said, man, all of this stuff is just man-made. I want to be natural all the way from the head to foot, and I let everything just come to me. I stopped fighting. I just got out of the way and started accepting. Like you said here, we're all on this panel, and like you were like, yeah, I'm up here. We're all the badass, but you're badass too because you're here with us. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes I never even thought that I was going to be in leadership positions, but God kept putting me in those. Every job that I would have, I would end up wanting to be the manager, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to get in, get out. Make it easy, But can you say something? And so I realized I accept it. I accept it. Like that's like the number one thing I learned really last year was accept. Accept. Don't fight it. Accept it. If you keep getting these positions, don't you think this is who you are then? I was like, yeah, you know what, girl? You're right. And just seriously have those conversations. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to honor it. I'm going to go that whole way. That's why when we talk about identity, that's why come up in the dance world, you got your names, you know what I mean? Like, your style represents who you are. So, when I was 14, I called myself Dancing Queen. I said, well, I love to dance and I'm a queen, so yes, that's gonna be my name. So everybody knew me as DQ for a long time. And yeah, like, that's how they met me, Micaela too. Like, and that community is so amazing because all of this, like, I'm here right now because of dance. Seriously, because that's how I met them. Like, just imagine if I just didn't follow my dreams as that 9-year-old self and said, I'm not going to do it. Because family sometimes can be discouraging, especially when they don't understand the artist. Like she said earlier, sometimes it gets lonely. It gets very lonely because you really don't feel understood, especially by your family. And that was it for me. And dance really, really saved me. It took me away from the things that I was experiencing growing up. It was my escape. And once I was able to get away and escape, I escaped. And I dived into it. And I'm so glad that I made that decision because it ended up changing my life. So that 9-year-old self will be so proud of where she's at now. And still surprised. I'm always learning. I'm always growing. You're never not growing. We're gonna grow and grow and grow. And when you stop growing, that's when you stop learning anyway. Why would you ever want to stop? No. I'm gonna keep growing because I don't know everything, but I've made it this far. And I'm thankful for that. So my 9-year-old self would be so proud. So proud.
Girl, she was completely shy, didn't talk. In your house, parents said, shut up, you shut up. And I was scared of my dad and my mom. So growing up, I was very in a shell, in a bubble, my own world. So now I have literally broken through this huge shell that had so many, a hard shell, like very, very hard shell. I was shy. The only thing that I got attention was from dancing. I was the ham in the room. I was like, oh, this is how I get their attention, by being the ham in the room and dancing. And so I think my 9-year-old self will be proud that I finally broke through something that was very, very difficult, especially what I was going through at that time in my life, from a 6-year-old to 12-year-old, a lot of abuse that went on. And to this day, I still can't really share a lot of those things with my family because my dad was always that type, was like, I'm gonna kill and I'm gonna be. My dad would be in prison right now, basically, if he knew half the stuff that happened to me as a little girl, unfortunately. But my resilience, I think, is what I think as my 9-year-old self would be proud of, is that I got past a lot of very traumatic things that have happened, abuse, domestic, verbal. So my resilience to me is who I am and who I hope that 9-year-old girl would have been. Very, very proud of to be today, and to be a person to speak up for others and not be scared of it and step into my greatness with my voice.
So beautiful. You know, I would tell my 9-year-old self, I was like, hey, you did it. Congratulations. remember when people were telling you, hey, tú sí puedes, you can do it. Well, you did it, you know. High five, 9-year-old self. That's what, but you know what? It's like, I'm not afraid to say this. I have a therapist, ¿verdad? And she says I have the heart of a child. And it was like, she's like, you know, so I feel like that 9-year-old still, she never went away. She's still there, right? Like my favorite thing, one of the favorite things I love to do, I love clowning. I love physical theater. I love to play. I'm bien juguetona, you know, I'm like that. So the 9-year-old, I don't think she ever went away. She's still there. And she says, my therapist says, you know, like when kids get in a fight and then like, you know, they're mad at each other and then 3 seconds later, you want to play? Okay. She goes, that's you. So yeah, I mean, I guess my answer is very simple. It's just that I think I would tell her, I would give her advice. I was like, you know, there's gonna be moments when you're gonna doubt yourself, and people are gonna tell you that you're this way, but you're not this way. You follow that inner light, follow that inner voice. Think of the people that are around you, that are nurturing you and planting those seeds. And in your heart, that's what you gotta listen to. So don't, you know, you can avoid a lot of hardship, you can avoid a lot of suffering and self-doubt if you just stay grounded and listen to yourself, trust yourself, because you already have the answers. And if you don't have the answers, you have mentors, you have familia, you have community, and rely on them. Rely on the people que te quiere, the people that love you. But that's the only thing I would change, is I would tell her, it's like, hey, you know, don't trust yourself more. Don't doubt yourself. But hey, you did it, 9-year-old self. I'm proud of you. Because really all I ever wanted to do, I was like, I just wanted to write stories and tell stories, and that's all I ever wanted to do. That was my whole dream in life. So, you know, I never wanted to be rich or famous or anything like that. So anyway, my dream was always very simple. So I'm happy I'm able to be a storyteller. I want to share something that a dear friend, he's a well-known poet here in Dallas, Mr. Will Ritchie. He said, and I think somebody shared it with him. He said that the burden of the storyteller is to share the stories of those who cannot tell the story. So I've always, you know, the people that don't. Not that they don't have a voice, but for whatever reason, they don't share it, right? So, desde niña, no, since I was a little girl, I always felt that my 9-year-old self was like, you know, my grandma has a good story, and my neighbor has a good story, and my prima, and my teacher, and why aren't we reading it? So, I'm happy to be one of many, 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 many storytellers, so that's all I wanted to share.
In your midst of where you're at within the community as being the anchor, as we know we have to transition on the business side, this question is always beneficial to no matter where anybody's at in their point of life. There's time you have to be diplomatic and a time to be truthful. Can you give us an example or both? Because we've all dealt with either contracts, conversations, and intentions.
Yeah, especially when it comes to talent. You know, this generation, I've noticed that when you're being honest, the feelings get hurt. It's like, man, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, but you want me to lie to you too? That don't make it. Come on. I'm sorry, I'm a very straightforward person, because lying doesn't do us any good. If you're not good at what you do or whatever that you have, that's just what it is. And I'm very blunt. But it's coming from a good place. It's not coming from, oh no, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. A lot of times that I've noticed from the dance community, like, you know, you'll have, you know, new generations coming up and wanting to, you know, learn different things, but very stubborn, you know, especially on the business side. I can do it too many hands in one pot, and then you're not. Oh my goodness! Like, I, be humble to like listen to the greats, but become greater. Because that's what's going to help us grow and evolve. I remember I threw my first event, and I was calling everyone because I got tired of all of the we should do this and we should do that, we should do that. It's a lot of talk, not no action though. It's not a we should do. And then that's when my first time stepping into my power. You know what? I've been doing this. Let me make some phone calls. Made some phone calls and made it happen. I mean, people came from all over. It was just amazing. But in doing that, you had some doors were opening, some doors were closing. That's going to happen. But if you keep moving, things will eventually take place. That's how everything starts with an idea. No idea is not a good idea. No. Any idea is possible. I stood in my idea and then went with that. In doing so, it has blessed me to become a judge, become a teacher, throw events, be a leader, talk, even host. I have all these different things to be able to cultivate, but at the same time having that level of understanding and patience. Because man, you're gonna get tried. You get frustrated, but don't allow those feelings to take over, especially in business. Let's talk, let's be adults, let's communicate to see what we can do to get this vision off, because it's all about the vision of the project or whatever you're doing or whoever you're working with. Those relationships matter, and having that business and have that understanding and getting out the way and just talking and understanding that we're both trying to accomplish something positive. If we're on that same page, we're gonna go through it, being organized, taking your time, using your resources, so if I'm going to teach or I have to judge and I'm going to see you, I want to see you. And if it's not good, I'm going to be honest. But not to be spiteful, to just be to help you. Because I wanted someone to tell me, man, when I was getting in the scene, when I first went to New York, they was like, man, you all right? I was like, whoa, hold on. I wasn't used to that. And I was like, okay. And I'm competitive. So when they said that, I was like, all right, okay, cool. Because it's hard to get New York. I don't know if y'all been to New York, but New York's a tough crowd. You kind of win them over. And I was like, you know what? I got you. We going at it with I'm battling one of their top girls, and they put on their song and they just going in, and I'm just like, you know what? Let me show it. I can do that too, but just my way. So it needs to say they love me now. But I had to. I was like, okay, I gotta prove it. Okay, let's do this. Then I'm gonna prove. All right, good. But I like that. Had they lied to me, maybe that wouldn't have came out. What if they would have said, oh yeah, you're dope? What if I would have gotten up there thinking you're never ever you're always a student. So what if I would have gotten up there just I needed that push, so that I even surprised myself after it was over with. I was like, dang, I did that. You spaced out. So being honest and being truthful with each other is the most important thing that I feel, because that's how growth happens. Being honest, and then we could go all move forward in that. So yeah.
There's dualities to life. What do you want the next generation to know in order to achieve their personal greatness? And don't go back to what Valkary said.
I would say, don't be afraid to keep telling your story and telling your truth. Your narrative, your perspective matters. You're going to meet people that see your potential, right? Which is fine, which is great, actually. But rushing towards it, it's not a good idea. And actually trying to be it when you feel like or you think you're not there, it's not a good idea either. So always, always remember to just be who you are at that moment and know that you have a vision and you see your own vision. Because sometimes for myself, I can speak for myself, it's been times just being in this dance scene, I see my vision, but I get conflict with other people's visions where they see me at. And it's like, I'm fighting this and I'm fighting that. How can I just coexist in my own lane and be accepted? Or how can I coexist and not be fighting both the professional or the freestyle, or this is what I want you to look like, but this is how you look in your image. So it's that's where the insane come in. It's okay to be insane, actually, because that's when the creativity and the art come out, and you can express your duality.
I think one thing is very important is to be a sponge. It's kind of like we use in dance. You're forever a student. I think that's in life, it's in business, it's in everything. Educate yourself. Sit back in the cut and listen. I've been only at greatness of where I am because of some of the major people in my community back home, sitting back, just listening, just sitting in the cut, really just kind of advising where I wanted to go, where I sit myself in this community and in the culture that I'm a part of. I feel like if I wasn't a sponge in those moments and I'm just here yapping and not learning and not listening, then where would I have been if I wasn't doing that? It's gonna take you 10 times way longer to get to a space that you feel like you may deserve, or where you feel like you may be, or where you may fit. But it's not about, when you're a leader, it's not about you being the leader. It's those that follow you in the mission of what's happening, not you leading the charge in a sense that you're telling people what to do. It's really you educating yourself, see where you see yourself fit at, and continuing to just nourish all of that, and understanding that you know that you don't have to be one thing in a specific thing, whether you're a part of dance or you're part of hip hop or the culture or whatever it is that you're a part of. I know that you can be, there's so many spaces. It's not just one thing that you need to be, but always comes down to educating yourself, being a student, and listening. And then that takes you to the next steps of where you want to go and where you see yourself. And those people with you, when they see you at that, they want to follow that, and also helps with really good leadership. So I think it's important just to make sure that you're always a sponge, just continue learning and listening.
That one question where you said, remember when you were 9, I said, oh my God, I don't remember when I was 9. I'm like this elder, so this is the next generation here, and I'm so very proud of them all, because they are themselves. They understand that although they are themselves, they are to reach their own personal best, but they know that they are a part of a collective, right? And they are a part of their community, and that without community, there is no them. So I would tell our youth to not only grow yourself, but also be concerned about the collective, because that is who we are as a people. We are people who must push toward humanism, right? Treat other people like you want to be treated. Work as to build humanity, not just ourselves, but also when you're in organizations and working, to make sure you include the elders, right? Make it an intergenerational conversation. Without Ella Baker, there would be no SNCC, right? Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. She was much older. And I think sometimes our young people, I think that we don't know anything, right? as older people, or that we're just old. And that they don't need to really, they have all this new information and new way of doing things, but sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can, definitely learn from those that came before you, which I know this group does, but to just make sure that we seek advice from those that are a little bit older than us sometimes, but also make sure you're not just here for yourself as an individual, but to upbuild humanity as a whole.
I agree with everything you guys are saying, 100%. I also would tell them to keep asking questions, because the only way to move forward is to find out what the needs are of your community. And I think one of the most important questions is just asking, how can I help? Like, what can I do? And I think that's like a lot of what I did, being young, like when I was really little, is just like going over like to the teachers at school and be like, oh, I'm done with my work, is there something I can do? Like, do you need help with putting something up? Or just like in my dance group, I was like, well, when I came back, I took a little break when I was at UTA, and then I came back, and I asked the children's instructor for Saturday classes, who has been like a mentor for me my whole life. I was like, hey girl, I was like, do you need an assistant? Because you got a lot of kids. And she's like, yeah, if you want to come and help. And so just asking questions and seeing like where you fit in to help your community and constantly like being in communication with them and being there to help them. And yeah, I think that helps. So just really helps you grow and find your place.
But his true heart is from Lebanon. After I get done reciting it, we'll just go one by one. You don't. I'm gonna stand up and pass the mic with you. Just say 3 words of how it resonates in your life. I have these conversations. The reasons why is because in the midst when we do travel, a perfect example, flight got canceled with Obi. Because I'm not gonna make it to San Diego. My flight got canceled, and I'm like, what? Yeah, that doesn't happen in my world. I'm like looking everywhere. He was like, no. He goes, I just feel like maybe it's just not a good time. But I'm all about when God creates a space and it's meant to be, those life challenges happens in everything we do. That's just part of life. But if you surround yourself with others that see a little bit of light and the destruction and the chaos that's happening, it helps you see life differently. So through those personal experiences, that's what helps us grow this space. The times that we've traveled together, hearing the other conversations, hearing people who were born and raised from those lands, and then going to another country and how they see a different side to living. So from Khalil Gibran, he says, let there be spaces in your togetherness, and then let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but not eat from the same loaf. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping. For only the hand of life can contain your hearts, and stand together and yet not too near together. For the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grove, not in each other's shadow. Please let us know this poem, how it made you feel, and how does it apply to your life? Because we're short of time, just say 3 or 4 words. I'm gonna pass the mic so you don't have to get up. But sharing each other's stories is what helps us see a different side to living. Because we all know what it feels like to have many doors closed. Not 1, not 2, not 10, not 20, not 30. Because it takes many decades to get to this place of understanding what life has to hold for you when we don't shun away with difficult moments.
Hearing this poem made me feel boundaries, self-respect, and communication.
My first thought was alignment, compassion, and love.
For me, just staying intentional on and purpose and family.
What resonated is we are here to give love and receive love.
For me, it was being present. You are enough. And being perseverant.
It was the last line, the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. I think that we all have so much to celebrate in each other, and we should always be there to show up for each other's achievements and accomplishments.
Again. And you know what? I did want to say to my 9-year-old self that yes, I'm proud of you, and we make it, and you know, it's okay to open up a little bit because it's
all right. You don't have to be as shy or as afraid to be as wonderful as you are. Each one, teach one, each one, reach one. And that's what these wonderful panelists have done for us today. So also take that with you into your community.
For all the panelists, first of all, thank you. It was very enlightening and really good. As leaders, one of your goals is preparing for tomorrow. But also as leaders, you're pulled until today's fires. How do you find that balance in terms of dealing with today's fire but preparing for tomorrow?
I think a lot of times we, as women, and this could be anybody can actually kind of maybe feel aligned to this. We tend to live our life on survival mode, and I have lived that for almost all my life up until literally a year ago, where I finally found peace and what that means to feel peace. And never did I knew I was deserving of that much love. So every single day, oh my God, I want to cry. Jeez, Chloe, you better stop. So every day I do wake up grateful, and that is the fire that aligns me to make sure that the next day that I align that fire to each and every day that I can give, that God allows me to give. I pray every single night to let my words to be impactful and to guide me to be a light for those around me. That's literally, I pray those two things every single night, aside of my sons and all the great things that come around me. But yeah, for the most part, like tomorrow I have another event, and I host events a lot, so I wonder to myself, how am I going to be impactful that day? So how am I going to be impactful tomorrow? Today's a lot of lessons that I'm taking into tomorrow. So I thank you for that question.
Thank you, Ericka.
For me, that was a great question. Just staying ready so I don't have to get ready. You know, staying ready so I don't have to get ready. That I keep that in my head every single time because I'm preparing for tomorrow and also resting. For me tomorrow, like sometimes we go so hard, like you said, we're always in go mode, that sometimes we don't sit back and rest. And I sprained my ankle not too long ago, and I realized like you going hard, but hey, rest is also important too. Because if you're not fully rested, how can you be able to battle? You know, it's a balance, and finding that balance is resting, and like I said, staying ready so I don't have to get ready. So if I'm going hard 5 or 7 days a week, I'm going to take at least a day to re-rest and regenerate. That way I can start back on Monday or whatever day is for you and keep going again. So find that balance and staying ready so you have to get ready.
Okay, so when I go into a space, sometimes it's hard to let those outside factors not get to you whenever you walk in, but you also have to know that like going in as a leader, like when I'm leading classes, if I walk in with a stank attitude, I'm setting the tone for all the kids that are there. So I got to make sure that whatever's going on, I still put my best foot forward, and knowing that I have like so much influence on the space around me is what helps me feel like I have to do it. Like I have to make sure that I'm still this, but also taking that break. Yeah, like when I leave, I go home. I'm like, I'm going to bed. That's it. Like whatever I need to do to like reground myself and just, I mean, in and of itself, also knowing that like I'm there for my community also helps me feel better. I guess it's also like that kind of like that saying of like fake it till you make it in a way of like, oh, I have to be a little bit more presentable, and by the end of it, I feel a lot better. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be here, but putting myself in that space, I remember like why I'm there, and I feel really good at the end.
Right, that just goes back to us creating our lives, right? Being the author of our own stories. When we feel like we're getting anxious and the world's just throwing us in for a whirlwind, pause and reclaim your strength, reclaim your time, and reclaim the fact that you are creating that energy. So, tone it down. Any other questions?
Great question.
As you all have grown and evolved throughout your life,
you were finding yourself in these leadership positions, and you see yourself changing, what was it like, if you ever had to leave spaces or people or things because to effectively move into who you are becoming? What was that like for y'all as y'all have evolved?
Great question.
I would say for me, it's pretty hard because you know you try to like support, you know, but in order for you to grow, sometimes you have to let things go. And right, if you don't let it go, you're gonna get it, you're gonna fall with it, you know, and you're not gonna grow. So for me, I feel like you have to, in order to grow, and it might feel like it's probably not the time to let the stuff you know go, but it's gonna gravitate you for something new to come for you to grow into, you know, before you can go back to what you do know and like, you know, change that foundation. But yeah, it just let go. Let it go. Let it go. No explanation, just especially if you feel it, because you're gonna feel the shift. Especially in your community. You're gonna feel it, you're gonna see it. And especially when you sit by yourself, you're gonna sense it. So
And know that that lonely part is normal.
very normal. It's okay.
Everybody here.
That's the time for you and most high to speak. That's it. You get your downloads. That's all.
That is one of the hardest things to do is understanding when it is time to let it go. I can't tell you how many times I held on to so many, I'll just say people, that I was just giving so much to, and they call me sis, and they tell the world I am all these things, and then it's like it's understanding, like sitting in a room and knowing that you got somebody's back, but it's like once you turn it, it's like, you're like, you know, you don't know, I don't know if I was just naive to it or I couldn't believe it, you know, there's things that you're just delusional in moments in your life, or you just wouldn't see that in that person, and then when finally God put it in a space to where it was that aggressive for me, then I finally did it, and then it's like everything that I felt about it was true, and everything came out, and next thing I know, I'm like, oh my God, that was so great to let it go finally, but it was like a long time coming. So it's understanding when your body's neural system is telling you, it really, you feel it in your gut, you feel it in your heart, you feel it everywhere. And if it's telling you something, listen to it. And if somebody's showing you something about them, believe them. Don't take it too long. Sometimes this is my part where there's my little mama part. I mean, because I treat things like I'm a mother. I've been a mom since my first boy was, I was 16. I had my second at 18. So I had to grow up really fast. And so that other part of me is always like, oh, you can give a window of grace to someone, but again, it's how long you want to deal with that. You know, there is a shift. So, yeah.
You made me think of something. Shout out to all you ladies. Because I'm of 52. I heard something today and I want to share it with you.
Take your time.
If you're not changing, if you're not growing, when you're not changing, you're accepting. And that's what I'm getting from you ladies.
I used that quote in one of my videos, like probably a week or two ago. What you're not changing, you're accepting. I know that very well.
Whether it's people, your body, your relationships. If you're going to bitch about it, then you're not changing.
That's right. Go ahead.
Yes. Any other questions?
I have a question for Priscilla. You said that your son is here and that you often take him to various events and things that you're involved with. And I may have to wait for him to grow up a little bit to ask him this question directly. But what's your best guess about what he thinks about it all and what he thinks about his mom as a leader and how he's being shaped by it?
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for being here. My older son, there's a huge age gap. Y'all are gonna laugh, but it's okay. My older son is 28, and this other son is going to be 9. So I started all over again. There's like a whole person in between. I had one really young, right out of college, and the other one, I had at 41. So, but and each experience has been different. But what I have seen in my older child, Leo, he tells me, he's like, Mom, sometimes I thought things were boring. I didn't really understand. And I remember taking him to mariachi events, and he'd be like, Mom, this music is too loud and it's boring. And he'd do this for his years. But, I brought him around comunidad, I brought him around culture, I brought him around community meetings and talking about street repairs or whatever was going, you know what I mean? Like, he went into so many different spaces. So now he sees the world. I think he's very compassionate, he's very kind. He thinks about a lot of things before making a decision. He's very appreciative of the world. And really, I told him, I feel like it's helped him just be human, and that's my hope, that this little one, that while he might not understand it right now, but like my older son also realizes that it's important to care for community and to be your authentic self and to nurture yourself around buena gente and to not be afraid and to feel, that to so that those are my hopes, that it helps shape him, even if he's not an artist, even if if he doesn't want to be a leader, it's okay. I just want him to understand that we're not alone and we're part of the community, and I hope it helps him to be a good human. That's my only hope.
Yes, thank you for that, Priscilla. Great question. Hi, my name is Grace. But I really wanted to ask everybody really this question. How do you go about staying true to yourself when I'm Nigerian and my culture is very demanding on the things that you have to be or how you have to be, who you have to be as a person. You have to make a substantial amount of money, because if you're not making money, you're not really anything for real. So how do you stay true to yourself by doing the things that you want to do without outside voices or your family members saying something to you about, oh, your goals are not gonna take you anywhere?
Oh yeah, that's why you gotta go. We're not doing that. No. Because like I speak to big back, like I said earlier, family can be your biggest downfall. Because and a lot of times they just don't understand it. But you also you have to do it. You're not in my body. Who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? I have to go through that. So I'm the one that with this gift. I'm the one that's going out here doing it, not you. So you don't know that. I heard that. Oh my gosh, man. That you need to stop that dancing stuff. What? Why? Like, dancing saved my life. It paid my bills. Literally, I'm not joking. Great checks. I was very blessed, and I did it. I actually had a conversation with a friend not too long ago. She was like, "Man, Delisha, you literally said, yeah, I'm not working. I'm going to do this, and you did it." And I said, "Yeah, because I said I am, and I'm going to do it, and I did it." And I don't listen to anybody else because they don't know my dreams and in my heart. Only I knew that. Only I knew that, and that's all that matters, is that you're the dreams at the end of the day. People will stop you, and I know they care. Even when I travel, oh, you shouldn't go over there. There's danger everywhere. Okay, there's danger everywhere. Don't walk the streets at night in Dallas, especially West Dallas. You're on your own. It's danger everywhere. Don't let fear, especially your family. They walk in that because of what they went through. We are all different people. We've all been through different things. Do not, that's that fear talking for people. People project too. They project. A lot of projecting. You don't even know, you're saying that from your experience. Your experience, my experience are two totally different things. So I'm going to walk with God and go on my own and tune out whatever y'all have to say, because you're not on my mission that I have. We all have different missions. This is mine.
Yeah, I think it's harder when everything seems disrespectful.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah,
you don't know,
the whole balance of it all, because it's like I can't say one thing without it being, oh, it's disrespectful. What you need to do this and that, and how you have to do it because you have to get somewhere in life, which is like true, but it's just hard to close all those chatter.
The beauty of culture, here's the fundamental to that. If you're born and raised here, the conversation is different. Oh, I talk so loud. When you're born and raised here, the conversation is different. But I can tell you right now, how we project ourselves here, going to another country, we have to humble ourselves. Because how the suppression is, how the way of life is, what government laws are effective, which are not effective, how long did it take the law to get there, how many generations have to pass away before a law is effective, no matter what part of the world we live in. And where segregation was, didn't happen into the southern states until 20 or 30 years later when it became effective. So that conversation right there of what you were saying in reference to being Nigerian, we have that problem when we travel. So that's why when it goes to another country, it's not imposing our thoughts and our ideas of how women should be in that country. It's understanding and sit down to watch and listen versus saying, no, you should be doing it like this, when they don't see the hardship every day in those countries. So when your family speaks to you, it's because they're seeing it through their eyes and their hardships. But this conversation is for Obi.
So if you asked me this at 10, I would answer you differently. If you asked me this at 20, I would answer you differently. And I'm 32. So what the Nigerian, that culture, I understand it completely. What I think I'm noticing now is that you can hold duality. You have space to do both. What I thought, I was at Cornell studying chemical biology because that's what I thought I had to do to matter. What I'm realizing now is that both things can be true. My family wanted me to do my best and be my best. So it wasn't about leaving them and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't need you. I do need you, but I have to show up as myself too. So both are possible. They're not telling you those things because, well, I don't know why. I can't jump in their brain. But I'm saying that it doesn't, you need to go and follow your own path, but it doesn't mean that you're not gonna have your family. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna have the joy in your heart of, sometimes it takes time and they'll come around. So give yourself some space to do that and know that you can be yourself, even in a strict culture. And I think someone had a question over here, Heather.
I'm gonna stand to your point about staying true to yourself in a aggressively opinionated family. Because I'm a PK kid. Yes. One, spend some time with yourself. Spend a lot of time with yourself so that you can learn to have the confidence to show up, as Obi said, as yourself in that seemingly oppressive space. And it's hard when you know someone loves you and they're trying to love you well, but it hurts. It's like, sit down, please. So that would be my, I know you didn't ask me, but I'm telling you anyway. That would be my, biggest, spend time with yourself so you have the confidence in who you are and you can decide how you show up in that space and what's healthy for you and what is good to listen to and what is going to be impactful and you can, transform it or adapt it to your story. There's a lot of things that my parents and family share with me and we're different thinkers. I'm, as my brother would like to call me, the fruitcake. And they're all athletes and 1 + 1 is 2. And I'm like, but 4 halves is also 2. I had to get away from that environment and spend some time with myself. And a lot of things they share were helpful and beneficial and they paved the way for me, but I also had to learn to stand on my own. So spending time with yourself, identifying with yourself and your culture can kind of help you navigate that space. There's no right answer, but knowing who you are, what you stand for, what motivates you and what impacts you and who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world will help you navigate that space with more confidence. And it's not going to be easy all the time, but you'll learn to stand in your own womanhood and say, respectfully, XYZ. Because if you disagree, apparently that's respectful, but that's not the truth, is it? And so you got to learn to just stand in that gust of wind. But you don't learn to stand in that gust of wind until you can face yourself in the mirror and say, I know who that woman is. Now, I do have a question for my powerless out here. So my question to you all is, how and when do you find rest? Full stop.
Rest.
Yes, how and when do you find rest?
Thank you, King Alvarado.
Wait, is it? Oh, okay. I think sometimes you find it just anytime you can, if you have a really busy schedule.
Specifically to you, Dominique. How do you, Dominique, the creator, the leader, the woman here that cultivates community, how do you, specifically, how do you find and make time for yourself and your body and your mind to rest?
Okay, so I'll find time when I can, but also there's sometimes where I really do want to go and like be present with some friends, maybe like on a Friday night, but then I have to really sit there with myself and be like, nah, bitch, stay home. Like, be for real. So I'll take that time, I'll stay home, or like sometimes I'll skip a dance class here and there, because as much as it is an outlet for me, sometimes it is also just draining, like physically, mentally. Yeah, like there's choreography, there's steps, like I gotta socialize, that's a lot. So I'll stay home, I'll light a candle, I do a lot of smudging, like soy bruja, so I do like my palo santo, my sage. I'll sit down. I've been kind of trying to journal more lately. I just find something that comforts me and like helps me like rest in that moment, whether it's the 5 minutes I get between an activity or the time that I do say, nah, I'm gonna stay home today and I'm just gonna sit here and it's gonna feel great.
Anyone else who wants to tackle that? Oh, you have another question, right?
I don't know if it's a question, but I'm a retired teacher. I want to go back to that just quickly. My 9-year-old would say to me, "You did it." After teaching 33 years in DISD, back in 2011, I now sub every now and then because I need to make some money. But I'm also a poet and an author. So now I'm trying to reroute myself. I'm trying to find out where am I going, what spaces. I'm trying to get out there and continue to help. So that's where I am right now.
Thank you. And you're so needed in the community, as Mama Akwete was talking about, giving back to the community, allowing us to be able to sit at the feet of our ancestors, right? I mean, not every person who has age has wisdom, but when you do find one, you sit at their feet, okay? And so we should all look for that to cultivate that as well. Any other?
I was actually speaking to a couple other organizers in different cities. I'm a part of a lot of different group networks, and a lot of us are women actually that do these huge competition and big events across from East Coast to West Coast and then Midwest. And we were literally just having a conversation about that. So when you brought that up, we talked about how our committees, what these boards should look like. And again, I'm older, and so there's so many resources. That was one of the 2 or 3 other of the women that were on these calls where we're talking about that to the other young girls that are kind of doing some of this work that we're doing, or they're just getting into it. We talked about our elders and the people that have paved the way, the people that have put the stepping stones. They are the most knowledgeable. This is where we talk about hip hop culture, like to educate yourself to the foundation of why you're here or why we're doing what we do and all these things. So you are literally the gateway, the resource of everything that can make that much better in your organizing, your being an organization, and just being leaders. So we appreciate you. We are looking for you. There is more people that need to seek you out. And so make yourself available by doing some of the newer things that are kind of out here, but maybe creating a deck that talks about who you are, putting it out there on social media. There's LinkedIn where I'm always trying to connect with different people that are doing this type of work and that want to get in this type of work. And it's like, how do we find you? But make yourself available to what's kind of happened in this evolution of time now as well. So kind of on both ends of that. But yeah, you're very, very, very needed.
And thank you for opening that, for saying it out loud.
Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to thank y'all for everything that was shared here today, and so much of it resonated so deeply with me. And I want to uplift Priscilla and Akwete for their incredible leadership in our community, and how they show up and care for our community is so amazing. I'm so inspired by both of you, and I just have a lot of love and gratitude for y'all. And everybody on this panel. This is so incredible.
And you're an amazing
Thank
leader
you.
too, Rihanna, so we gotta acknowledge that, so.
Yes, everybody is a star. All right, any other questions, comments? All right.
I need the mic, he says. Okay, so you'll probably hear from my accent. I'm not from Dallas. And I want to go to the point about identity, because the panelists are all clearly multi-ethnic, have had different experiences and stuff. And that is the challenge, as I call myself, Black Puerto Rican, una Latina negrita. How do you, among yourselves, share with each other, if you do, to be able to say, we are one, we are so much more alike than we are different. Since coming to live in Dallas, and this is just one little anecdote, it always is amazing to me, as it is probably to the people that I approach, when I go into a grocery store and La Mexicana is there stocking the shelf, and I walk up to her and le digo en español, and I speak to her in Spanish, it's like a visible, it's actually the whole body language changes. And her whole posture changes towards me, because when I'm approaching, I can see, you can actually see them kind of pulling back. They see me as somebody else. So it really does screw with me trying to find identity. Living in New York, it wasn't so bad. Coming to Dallas, it has effed me up.
How long have you been here?
Just about 6 years now.
Okay, I moved in 2005. That's the reason why I created Orizon, because of that feeling right there.
Okay.
Because instead of me running from it or saying something all the time of what I was feeling and what I was seeing, then I was like, I'm about to just create Orizon. Which, again, creating that in 2005 was 15 years. We're on our 20th year now. But those first 15 years, it was fights nonstop. Because what people consider representation to be, because of very limited of thoughts. And I reminded people, if you've never left your neighborhood, if you've never left your zip code, if you've never left your city, and if you've never left your states, I had to start meeting people where they're at to change the conversation. To say, yes, you judge me, you think I'm code switching, you think I'm this, you think I'm that, but let's go, okay, that move, yes, is cumbia, but in another country, it's jazzy. Once you start creating our similarities and having those uncomfortable conversations, what they think, how they feel, how they act, then they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Then it becomes a different type of love. Instead of that resistance or that static energy that you were feeling, because that it is an ongoing. But I can tell you right now, you go to Houston, you start talking Spanish, el amor, they're like, you're part of us. It's a whole different vibration. That's why every time I've gone to Houston, I feel like I'm more in Chicago because of the diversity. Dallas has it. We see it in the dance community. That's why the vibration of hip hop was so beautiful and still is, but the fight is different. But it's not like that in Houston. And it's so crazy.
Because the people that act that way, they haven't traveled. It's not
Correct.
about even about being educated or having money.
Correct.
If you haven't traveled and you haven't bothered to experience somebody else's side, maybe opposite from yours, that will always be that way. I like Priscilla, when I went to Denton and I went to undergrad there and I walked into a restaurant, dishes stopped. I mean, everybody stopped because I was there as a customer. I wasn't there to ask for food or a job. I just wanted to have a meal. And it was a big news. And to this day, I was working for transition services, and I went to translate an accounting session. At the end of the session, the counselor says, "God, your English is good." Yep. I said, "Really?" Because we both graduated from Texas Women's, and I went and got my accounting degree. Screw that lady. That's what you said. I'm gonna show you.
The communities, even with music and dance, the exact same feeling that you're having. There's a platform in certain cities. I talked about this at the university with what they considered people who have the expertise in that genre. They're not asking people of the culture to show up in those spaces.